All right, this is some of the review material for our Intro to Meditation course, and we're still doing mostly just review on the introduction to meditation, what meditation is, how meditation might work, how meditation might function, and we will get into more review on the how to meditate. And the idea is that if you know more about the idea of meditation, what causes it and how it works, or some concepts about it, that you'll be able to practice it even better. And when you've run into some obstacles while you're meditating, that they won't be so disturbing. So from disturbance, let's start with a term. And this term is out of the yoga side of our conversation of meditation. It does show up in other places too, but the term is vritti. And vritti is probably a term for some of the yoga students, if you're in the yoga trainings, it's most commonly heard of from the yoga sage Patanjali. And vritti denotes some sort of a disturbance. And the disturbance would be from a more ideal flow of consciousness or awareness. And on the kind of the more far out use of it, it would be a disturbance in the flow of consciousness, kind of in a spiritual concept. But more in our day-to-day stuff, we could look at a vritti as a torque or a twist or something that contorts a natural flow and kind of disturbs what would be a more easeful, more productive, more efficient flow. So it's not exactly used like this, but essentially if you had like a muscle knot or a sprained knuckle or some sort of a body issue, you could consider that to be some sort of a disturbance in your biomechanical systems of your body. And as you try to walk or run or lift something up, that disturbance would disturb your ability to actually perform one of those actions. So it disturbs your ability to perform naturally. On the mind layer, the mind levels, say like on a surface layer of consciousness, if you were trying to make up your mind and there was a lot of hectic noise or something in the background, that noise or that disturbance might make it hard for you to think. And essentially, that same type of disturbance might be something that's even in a deeper layer of consciousness or thinking, in your subconsciousness. There might be something there that disturbs your surface layer of consciousness from being able to pay attention to something. So vritti, a concept of a disturbance. And when we get into meditation, one of the reasons why we would meditate is to try to bring ease to that disturbance. And there's a lot of steps and a lot of ways that we can do that. So this disturbance is off-centering. And again, if you've done a larger meditation program, this is kind of putting real lay terms onto these things, but vritti off-centers you. Off-centers your physical body, your thinking mind, your circulatory or energetic systems, your subconsciousness, and even in the concept of what we're talking about, might even be a psycho-spiritual consciousness as well. So it's off-centering. And one of the things that we get into in the how to meditate is a lot of centering work. Now the centering work, we could also relate to a term of Patanjali's. And I'm just using Patanjali as one side of it, and later we'll bring up some more terms from more the Buddhist side of it, especially when it comes to conduct. Pratyahara is the idea or the concept of withdrawing the senses from the periphery. And that might be that if you were to sit in a really noisy, disturbing room, your attention might be pulled out to all these different things going on. Or at a stressful time of the month, maybe when your bills are due and whatnot, your mind might get fairly scattered onto all these other ideas. And so when you go to make a decision with your mind and your attention scattered and unfocused, you can say that that's off-centered, and maybe there's a disturbance in your natural flow of awareness. pratyahara is the idea of some sort of action of bringing your attention back to yourself. So you could be in a very disturbing environment and still actually have your awareness pretty much close to you or close to your own thinking. It's the ability to direct your own attention and your own awareness. It's almost the exact opposite of having a deficit, of being able to distribute your attention or attention deficit. So centering is all sorts of different techniques, if we were to go for a broad scope in meditation, of bringing your attention back to you. And this is one of the first things that's going to make it easier to actually sit and meditate. Now, some styles of meditation, they essentially combine centering and meditation at the same time. And we're kind of bringing up the two as different things because we'll talk about different exercises that don't seem like meditation, but are definitely centering. So in the centering categories, it's probably best to put something that we have as visual, auditory, physical, and then we're going to do another one, which is we're going to just say is breath work. Breath work. The visual for the yoga side is going to be related, and I'm going to leave these off the board for now. The visual is going to be related to something that we'll call yantra. The auditory is going to be related to something called mantra. The physical is going to be related to something we'll call asana. And the breathing is going to be related to something called pranayama. In different styles of meditation, we'll use these in slightly different ways. And we'll break these down in just a moment a little bit deeper. But we tend to find some combination, or at least a little bit of these, in most of the common and kind of modern areas of meditation. And, as a little bit of a teaser, don't forget that these also relate to some, and many, I should actually say many, forms of prayer as well. And here's where we have kind of a connection of meditation and a lot of styles of prayer. Even if you're not trying to pray, there are just commonalities. Don't worry if you're meditating, it doesn't mean that you're praying. Or if you're praying, it doesn't mean that you're practicing meditation. There are just many similarities. All right, so there's part one of your intro to meditation. For now, if you would like to do a little bit of homework with this before we cover more of the how-to, what I would recommend is taking a seat. Just take a seat. Try to do a slow, rhythmic breath, nothing fast, and try to make your exhales at least as long as your inhales with a slight pause in between, and count. So we're going to do breath work. Count to 20 breaths. And if you would like to do a little bit of an experiment, try to pay attention to how many things are going on in the room before you do the breath work. So sit and do eyes closed. With your eyes closed, pay attention to everything that you can in the environment, and try not to pick a perfectly quiet environment. And then pay attention to your breath, fairly long, slow inhales and exhales, something about like this. Short pause. A short pause, and then repeat. And I'd like you to actually listen and try to feel the movement of the breath. Listen to it with your ears. Your inner ears will pick up a lot. As you get more and more centered, you'll pick up even more. And then after 20 breaths, and if you lose count, it's totally fine. If you lose count, it means that you're probably getting fairly centered. You could do just a little bit of finger counting, through each hand, and go through each hand twice, and you would be at 20. And at the end of 20, pause, especially if you're relaxed, and enjoy it for a moment. And then pay attention again to whatever you pick up in the room and see if you hear the same things or similar things that you did the first time. And then, even if you hear the same things, note to yourself whether they are as distracting or not. And if they are less disturbing, then you are probably more centered. And that work for now, we're going to say that sitting, eyes closed, and breathing exercise is more of our centering work. When you become more centered, moving on into deeper layers of meditation becomes easier and easier and easier. So first we're introducing this as a lot of centering work. And it says intro to meditation, but for now, intro to centering, so that our centering can turn into the practice of meditating. All right, review number 1.